Oh, yes, Guilty Movie Pleasure fans, you are in for a treat today because we have a special guest, and we're going back to the golden age of Norm MacDonald in the 90s, where some of the jokes are hilarious and some of them hilariously aged very poorly, because today we're covering dirty work.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Guilty Movie Pleasures.
Yes, we're back! Oh, we like to just surprise our audience every week and be like, hey, maybe this week we'll do a show, maybe not. And then maybe we'll do a show with me, your host, Ben Begley, and my special guest, Ken Napzok, everybody.
Hey, Ben!
You know him from pretty much everything. You do the Napzok Files.
Yeah.
You have your book out, Why We Love Star Wars.
Yep. Great moments about the galaxy far, far away. They built them, Ben. They built them. Yeah, audio book out today. The book's been out since May, but today, as of this broadcast, audio book available too, read by me.
And Ken, how many different shows do you do in conjunction with the Napzok Files?
Too many, Ben.
I counted 45.
Yeah, I got Force Center, which is with Joseph Scrimshaw, Jennifer Landa, our Star Wars podcast feed. I got Napzok Files, which has shows on there, like Mysteries and the Unexplained, the show you were talking about.
Yeah.
I got the afternoons with Josh McCouga. We do some podcasting ourselves, too.
Are you ever not in a booth at this stage?
Today, after here, I have to run to Chatsworth to shoot a show, and that'll be 6 hours of broadcasting today.
What's that for?
I got to do a Star Wars show. My friends at Black Series Rebels.
So, everybody, if you haven't heard of Ken Napzok, you're not listening to podcasts.
You're not alone.
Well, I'm sure. I think there's a lot of overlap with Guilty Movie Pleasures and your audience, you know, with like all the Star Wars fans, the Schmoes Know, Schmodown, all that stuff.
The whole thing. It's a tight community.
I've only done the Schmodown once. How many times have you done it?
Well, I'm one of the announcers. Yeah. I've competed a few times as a former Star Wars trivia champ, but I retired from that. I can't keep up with the kids these days. I don't know. I don't know what my record is. People who know the records.
When you did compete, because I'm like I consider myself a movie buff.
And you were good on movie fights when I brought you in.
Movie fights was a bunch of fun, but my brain would melt down in the lightning speed round. And then I remember on Schmodown, McCouga and I came in as Bill and Ted, and then we got like Goldie Hawn comedies in the 80s, and both of us were like, we host a show about shitty action movies that we love, and now we have to do romantic comedies with Goldie Hawn.
Private Benjamin, that's the answer for everything.
That was the one we screwed up on. How'd you know?
I think I was there that day too. But if you're saying Goldie Hawn 80s, I'm thinking either Overboard or Private Benjamin.
I know the team we were up against was Team Rotten Tomatoes, I believe.
That's a tough challenge.
And I'm like, oh God, they know everything.
At the time, it was Gray Drake and Atchity. It was Gray Drake, Atchity. Yeah, they know their stuff.
And you were there. I think you were there, and I think JTE may have been there too. Yeah, I remember both McCouga and I walked away scarred from that because we got just destroyed.
It's tough, and it's only gotten tougher.
Yeah,
which is why I stepped aside. I know a lot about Star Wars, but I don't know every little alien name. As we get older, that stuff starts slipping out your brain.
It does.
I got to let other people do it.
And that's the thing where, like, I think I know Star Wars trivia until I go to, like, a Scum and Villainy trivia night or some kind of trivia night where I'm just like, I don't know anything.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I do know a lot, but then some of those nights are Dragon Cons is pretty famous, and it includes a lot of books, comics, legends, and I was never a huge fan of Star Wars Legends, so I just don't know any of that stuff.
I know the main canon. I don't know the books and the offshoots and all that. So Ken, before we get into dirty work, what can you pitch us your book a little bit so people know what they're getting into and why they need to get this audiobook today?
If you're a Star Wars fan from no matter what generation, what era, what you love, what you hate, we all love Star Wars if you're a fan of it. So Why We Love Star Wars is the 100 essays written by me on the greatest moments in the galaxy. But it's not, it's some of them, you're like, I knew that would be there. Other ones are like, wow, that one's there. But it's my journey, my perspective, but it's a shared story that we all have. And I think I'm finding the readers are connecting with I might have been in my backyard pretending to be on a speeder bike in Arroyo Grande, California in 1983, but you were doing it somewhere else in 87, and this guy was doing it in 91, and she was doing it in 2000, and there's a collective journey we all go on as fans.
Absolutely.
So it's all canon stuff, the new canon era, comics, books, video games even.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about Battlefront 2, but just, again, it's little moments. From sounds, I have an essay about the sonic depth charges in Attack of the Clones.
Wow.
One of the reasons I love Star Wars, and then I have some of the bigger stuff too, like Luke's death or Palpatine or something like that.
What's your most obscure reference that people would be like, oh, what the, or most random thing?
I'll tell you, one of my favorite moments in Star Wars is playing the Battlefront 2 game mode Ewok Hunt, which is a chilling Star Wars horror story.
I've never I have Battlefront 2 and I haven't even played this.
Ryan in the booth agrees. It is, you start off on Endor as a stormtrooper. After the Battle of Endor, you have to get back to a land.
Is this in the storyline?
It's canon-ish, but it's like it doesn't. It's just a. It's not in the storyline. It's just a mode. And you start as a stormtrooper with like 11 other troopers, and you have to get to a Lambda-class shuttle to get off Endor because you've lost the battle.
Yeah.
But the Ewoks are hunting you. And you have a blaster, an E11, that goes out, has a flashlight and goes out, and you have to wait till it kicks back on again. And you're going around a forest, and you're just hearing like... In the background, you hear... Yeah, and it's the most terrifying thing. And then they come hunting you, and then they throw Wisties at you from the old Ewok Caravan of Courage movie and everything like that. And then when you die, you respawn up as an Ewok. And now you get to hunt the stormtroopers. And whether or not...
How have I not played this?
A lot of people have overlooked Battlefront 2 because of the bad press it got in the opening weeks.
I was playing just the story mode, and I didn't finish it.
You got to go back. They've done a lot of great changes, and this is one of the modes. So I wrote about that because it is legitimately one of the reasons I love Star Wars, is that type of moment inspires a passion. And that's what it's about.
I'm so glad that, since I didn't know anything about the Ewok hunting mode, I thought before you started telling it that it was going to be you're a stormtrooper just full on murdering Ewoks.
Well, I mean, if you're good, you kill a few because you need to get to that shuttle, Ben.
You do. I just thought it was like...
But it's terrifying because no matter if you grew up hating the Ewoks or thinking they're stupid, and I liked them as a kid, but I was always on the fence as an adult. Yeah. Couldn't respect them a little bit more, but this game really makes you respect the Ewoks. Yeah. Because that little that you hear all your life in Return of the Jedi now becomes a cry, a battle cry for a hunter that's murdering you. And it's scary. And you're playing, and then your light goes out, and all you hear is like, the Ewoks are going to kill me. Yeah. So anyways,
I love that.
That's in the book too, and a lot of other things. So it's out there. And like I said, the audiobook's now available through Audible.
So it's like 100 essay love letter to Star Wars.
Exactly what it is.
Guys, check this out.
Yeah, man.
Where can they get it? They can get it anywhere?
Anywhere books are sold. Amazon's great. Leave a review there. That helps. Target.com, IndieBound, Barnes & Noble. It's at stores. It's at some libraries. I've had some people check it out and tweet a picture to me.
That's awesome.
And just, online. Type Why We Love Star Wars and you'll find it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm glad, are my fans that may not have heard of this.
Haven't heard of me.
Yeah. The 12 people that watch this show regularly, go buy Ken's book.
No.
So now
there we go.
The main reason we brought you here was to talk about a movie that you suggested, a Norm MacDonald.
Quickly, I might add.
You did.
There was no hesitation. When Ryan asked me, I think it was at a party, Ryan.
Yeah, I got to chime in real quick.
Yeah.
He immediately said Dirty Work.
Yeah.
I don't even think I finished
was there no other movie on the list? It was just this?
I had already done on a previous episode of the show in the early days with McCoogs. I did an episode about Spice World, which I do love that movie. Alicia Malone was on for that one too. And then, I was just sitting around, and so Ryan was talking to me. He's like, we do this show called Guilty Movie Pleasures. I've heard of the show. I've heard of Ben Begley. Would you like to come on? I said, I'd love to do Dirty Work.
So what is... Because I'll tell you my perspective on Dirty Work, and I'd love to get yours. I remember seeing it in the 90s. It was around the time of like Billy Madison and all that.
Yeah, it was that mid-90s, the frat boys of SNL comedy,
Yeah, and I remember thinking it was funny, but it didn't hit me as much as Billy Madison. And I remember, the only thing I remembered going into it, watching it... last night or the night before, I can't remember anymore.
Right.
Last night, was that the dead hookers in the trunk scene, and I remember that being hilarious.
A lot of hookers, a lot of hooker comedy.
Hooker jokes. So maybe
Poor jokes, as you would say.
Maybe at the age when I watched this, some of it either went over my head or I don't know. But I found it really funny. But I also found overall, I found it really funny. There's just some shocking jokes that don't age well. Specifically the prison scene where they casually...
Ridiculous.
Insinuate that 3 dudes just go off and have their way with him, and then he comes back and is like...
Ridiculous, sir. I have a mind to tell the warden about this. Ridiculous. It's a lack of respect.
But I will say my favorite scene, and I do have a clip from it, which we'll get to later, but my favorite scene from the entire movie is when they go to... In fact, we'll just play now. Get clip 6 ready, and I'll cue it up in a second.
I mean, it's great that I get to listen and watch the movie again.
When they're putting the fish in the house and trying to escape...
Yeah.
And the guys come in, and they think it's a drug deal gone bad, and so they start shooting and killing each other off camera, and Artie Lange and Norm MacDonald are just standing there deadpan...
For a long time.
For like 2.5 minutes of chaos, and if you can play clip number 6, this is my favorite beat of it. Because right before that, the dude is so stoked he has a chainsaw in a gunfight.
I got a chainsaw! Yeah. They're taking away
I love it. Just
they don't move. McDonald holds that stare for a very long time.
I'm so curious how long it took them to do it without laughing. It's so funny. So there's moments that are hysterical still, and obviously things that just with when what's PC, what's
times have changed,
but overall it still was really funny to me.
Look, I always say I forget the exact year. Was it 96 or 97? I can't remember that.
It's 98.
98.
Oh
okay.
No way! It was 98.
That would make sense. I hadn't moved to LA yet. I moved to LA late 98, and I remember watching The Sun with my friends. Saw it in the theater twice, and loved it.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge Norm MacDonald fan, especially back in the day. He hasn't aged as well. His comedy. Directed by Bob Saget.
Yeah.
Artie Lange, who has had an up and down life, and he's a tragic character, but at one point Artie was kind of a combustible, energetic force of comedy out there. Yeah. Jack Warden. Trailer Howard, who I believe...
A ton of people.
Yeah, who went on to 2 Guys and a Girl in a Pizza Place.
Yeah.
And Chevy Chase...
Chevy Chase
John Goodman in a cameo.
Chevy
Chris
Chase
Farley.
is so Clark Griswold in this movie.
Oh, he's just doing... You can just tell they brought him to set, and there's one point he goes to exit the scene. He's got the arm in his sling, and he just looks at the camera and does like a Chevy Chase, like... And you can tell that it's like had nothing. He just was mugging because he's like, I'm on set.
He's just doing his Chevy Chase thing. He's hilarious.
And directed by Saget. And I say this about... It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
The writing's dialogue...
It's very lazy.
Not great. Very 3-act structure. The girl comes in and gets befuddled and angry. There's no depth. No one in here is... Trailer Howard, I think, is a good actor. Jack Warden's got a long career. And Goodman and all these people. Farley's great. But Norm MacDonald and Artie Lange aren't winning awards. And they're never, and this is like, and they know it. They just know it, I think. And David Koechner's got a great scene. Sandler's got a cameo. Gary Coleman has 2 cameos.
That was some bizarre moments there.
It's
the
just
Gary
insane,
Coleman
man. And I loved it. I loved it from the opening moments with the young Norm MacDonald kid, a Mitch Weaver character.
How long has it been since you've seen it?
It had been a number of years.
How does it age now? Looking at it now, how does it still make you laugh as much as it did?
It still makes me laugh, and I totally can acknowledge that there's the way to approach comedy can sometimes change, and it should change over time, right? I'm a comedian myself, and I actually stopped doing stand-up, and I'm getting back into it, and I have to learn how to. What do we do? Like not to be careful, like I'm like muting myself, but just like we are concerned about some of the things, and there's things I've said in the past where I'm like, oh, that joke wouldn't work.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, the audience, it wouldn't work to the audience because I could say all I want all day.
Yep.
But the audience has to return something to me.
Yeah.
And if it's silence and anger, that's a problem.
And it's interesting because I used to do stand up as well.
Yeah.
Like I was about 4 or 5 years ago I stopped doing it. And I look back at most of my jokes, and there's none that were like, I'd be like, oh, I couldn't do that now. I'm just like, I don't think it's funny anymore. Like, I hate all my jokes.
Yeah, no, there's
back.
that too. So, yes, does this still entertain me? Yes, but I have to, and I'll try to be as careful as I can here. I understand the times have changed, but I enjoy a good whore joke. And this movie, Norm MacDonald, in the mid-'90s on SNL, when he was doing Weekend Update, had he had 5 things he used to love to go to. Mm-hmm. O.J. Simpson, which probably got him fired. Frank Stallone jokes, where the punchline was, Frank Stallone. And then he would always do hookers or dead whores. And then he would do note to self.
Yeah.
And then he loved making anal rape jokes.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
And it was his dream to have that sequence that you, understandably were like, okay, I don't know if this would make it.
Because when that scene happened, I was like, oh, clearly that's not going to happen. And then when he just casually comes back in, I wish I'd pulled the sound clip for it.
Up.
Ridiculous. Here's the thing. Like, I think that
it's the lack of respect that hurts the most. Well, the other thing hurts the most. But the second thing is the lack of respect.
But I would argue that the things that happen in this movie aren't any worse than when we had Curtis Armstrong, who played Booger from Revenge of the Nerds on. And we were talking about how Revenge of the Nerds, they set up a camera and just stare at naked women all day. And it's like, so like comedy changes over time. What seemed innocent or harmless at the time, eventually times change. And you go, maybe that's not. And
and I think it's okay to recognize it now, but still look back and go, hey, at the time. And there's some things that do. I mean, my girlfriend never seen the movie, and she was coming in and out, so she watched the second half of the picture with me, but she was laughing. Yeah, she was like, this movie's really funny. And I was like, well. Yeah, it is, but it's not great. Like, she's like, I have to watch the beginning. You don't have to.
We covered Waiting recently on here, and I'm not a big fan of that one.
Yeah,
this one is far funnier.
I really think there's some stuff that's funny.
Some super funny stuff in this movie. Yeah. I think overall, and the fact that it's like an hour and 15 minutes makes it so harmless.
I started at like 11:30 last night.
Yeah, you're just like,
it's like I rented it and I was like, I definitely want to watch this. So I hadn't seen it in a number of years, man. Like but I always talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's an inside joke when I'm hosting Schmodown. People are like, you going to compete again? I'm like, there's no questions about Dirty Work. I am not coming back. People are like, what's that movie? I'm like, oh, dear God. It's 21 years old now. I just love it, man. Jim Downey, Robert Downey Jr.'s, the uncle, who wrote for SNL for years and years and years and years. Fred Wolf, who was a feature player and a writer at SNL in the mid-90s. They're homeless guys in it where they're fired from, Christopher McDonald's character.
Is Fred Wolf the guy who's also in Billy Madison, who has that hysterical monologue of, the audience is now dumber because of you?
I think so. Fred Wolf's in this one, the one who's like going through the aisles going, I'm sorry, excuse me, I farted.
The other guy
is Jim Downey.
Yeah, Jim Downey.
So Jim Downey, and he was in charge of...
He has those awesome wistful monologues. Yes. And then they cut him off.
I thought about this when Travis Cole did,
He's so funny in this
great.
movie.
I mean, Jim Downey is one of the most historically important characters to SNL in the history of SNL and the politics of SNL.
Really?
And the 80s and 90s parodies and political stuff of SNL. And
he was one of the big writers on it?
Years and years and years and years. And like I said, he's Robert Downey Jr.'s uncle, I think.
That's crazy.
And so when RDJ was on SNL in '85 that year, and he was like 20, Jim Downey was around too, and I just think he's an underrated name in the history and the annals of comedy. And so to him to have those just wonderful moments.
Yeah.
So we can't be bought. $1. How about $2? Okay. Yeah. Butchering the jokes, but there you go.
It's so good. It's so good.
Jim Downey.
He still to this day, his speech in Billy Madison is just like it's so relevant with so many things going on. It's just like the entire audience is now dumber having listened. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. So I guess before we get into everything, Ken, you and we're going to try and do the plot. And I use that term loosely.
Very loosely.
In under 3 minutes. Do you think we can do this?
I think I'll follow your lead.
We'll go back and forth, trying to do the plot in under 3 minutes, then we'll get into this. We'll get into some dirty work. So we got 15 seconds on the clock. Hold on. He's speeding it up. All right, 5, 4.
5, 4.
Here goes.
2, 1.
Okay, so we start off with a prologue where we learn about Mitch and his buddy Artie Lange's character. I can't remember his name right now, but we'll figure it out. Sam, yeah. And they're kids, and they were always good at pranks. Some of them a little bit more offensive than others, like putting guns in a kid's desk drawer and crossing guard that grab butts and taking pictures of their babysitter. Anyways, then they put parking in a meter maid's car, and now they're grown up, and he's a pizza delivery guy, and he gets fired from his job. He goes to his apartment where people are wearing all his clothes because because his girlfriend's thrown him out, and then he goes to stay with his buddy Sam, Artie Lange, and his father, and then he finds out that Artie Lange's dad is also his dad, and he knows it because there's a locket of him having sex with his mom. And what else? What else?
So Norm MacDonald's character Mitch Weaver, his entire life, the thing he lived by was don't take crap from nobody. And all the people you talk about, he got revenge on, like the kid who was a bully in school, the crossing guard used to try to grab butts when and even they say then no one looked for that stuff back then. So it's to get back on the bad guys. So he and his Jack Warden's character ends up with a heart attack, and they need to pay Chevy Chase's doctor character who is in debt to his bookies and is slowly getting killed piece by piece. They need to get $50,000. He'll do it. They go into the revenge business. He meets Trailer Howard's character, who they get revenge on her boss, but she ends up getting fired. They get tied up with this guy Travis Cole, Christopher McDonald. Christopher McDonald is a town kind of rich man who is putting
Shooter McGavin,
as I know him, from Happy Gilmore, my favorite Sandler movie. He has a Chihuahua, Spunky, and they have to ruin his event because as revenge for him, because they did a job for him, which caused Trailer Howard's
because they were
grandmother,
trying to get low-income housing evicted, but it turns out that it was just a bunch of old people.
And Trailer Howard's grandmother lives there, runs a sewing business out of there.
Which Norm MacDonald thought were whores.
Whores? You don't got whores in there. They get him. They get revenge. They get their money. Jack Warden's safe, and then they all ride off into the sunset.
Wow, Ken just killed that.
Roughly.
Look at that with 45 seconds to go. Man, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. Man, halfway through, I was like, oh, good. I don't have to do this for once. For once, I don't have to do anything during this beat. Oh, wow. Okay, that's it. We're done.
That's it.
We're out of here.
That's generally the major plot points.
Yeah, I think so. And just having you mainly recount it, the absurdity
of my love for dirty work.
The absurdity of this movie just kept ringing true to me. And I would say that overall this movie is hilarious. And it's not the greatest thing, but there's so many funny moments, and there's enough of them sprinkled throughout that it works still. It reminds me similarly of when I rewatched Half Baked recently, where Half Baked is not a great movie, but it's still hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's another one that somehow barely is a feature runtime.
Yeah, the thing with these type of comedies in the mid-'90s, and this was probably the last gasp of it, and things started changing a little bit. Sandler's career changed, everything. But when they were doing this, and it was the mid-SNL guys, and it's totally frat guy humor. They were known for that, the bad reputation for that within SNL. But this was kind of my college era of SNL, so I like a lot of these characters. I love these collection of movies. The Tommy Boys, Happy Gilmore's one of my favorites. So Billy Madison, you mentioned other ones. I even kind of like Little Nicky at times. Like
I've never seen Little Nicky.
Yeah, it's you should do it on this show. We'll find someone who loves it more than I do. But they have that. And look, they're not great. But I miss that era of you could just do a silly movie that had no point. And then that was actually funny.
Yeah.
Where now, some of the other Sandler ones are just he and his buddies going on trips and taping them video and happen to film a movie. And I'm not disparaging that. He's earned that right to do that. I miss that era a little bit.
And the thing is that even though you could argue that a lot of these movies are just like a series of sketches that are loosely tied together. Like each one feels like a setup, payoff. And Billy Madison, I remember specifically being that way, where it's like all non sequiturs. And you're like, what the hell? But it was a lot of these had that kind of structure. And now I feel like sometimes when critics or like my friends get on comedies and they're like something is a movie that I love that not everybody liked, but Central Intelligence with The Rock and Kevin Hart. Like, I remember somebody was like, it was too predictable. I'm like, it's a comedy. Did it make you laugh? Like, it cracked me up. I don't care.
That's a great point.
I'm like,
because
are you going in there for
the plot I just recounted is pointless. It's a 3-act structure. And look, we want more from our movies. I want better, thought out characters. I want the female characters more than just coming in here going, I believe me. I want that.
I never buy that any of the love interests are into the lead man.
Norm MacDonald, where he's schlubby,
or Bridget, what's her name from? She played Sonia Blade. She was in Billy Madison.
Pete Sampras's wife, Bridget Wilson.
I'm gonna say Bridget Wilson. Yeah, I think so.
I can't remember.
Not Bridget Nielsen.
Not,
I know that.
Not Brigitte Nielsen.
Not Brigitte Nielsen.
Yeah, but I know what that complaint is. I totally get it because I remember going into the theater in '99 and watching Office Space. Over at Pacific Theaters Northridge. I remember the theater, Ben. It's also where I bought saw my Phantom Menace trailer for the first time.
Oh.
I remember walking out of the movie going, it was really predictable. And then the second time I saw it, probably on, not VHS, probably DVD, I was like, oh, this is completely genius.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be bogged down by the plot.
The exact same experience happened to me with Office Space. The first time I saw it, I was like, and then I watched it over and over and over again. And I was Bridget Wilson. That's
Bridget Wilson. Okay.
Bridget Wilson, Sampras, yeah, I think that or even like I loved Booksmart when I saw it this year, and then a buddy of mine was like, it just was predictable, and then like their falling out was forced, and I'm like, but it was hysterical, and they did some really great things for a female-driven comedy in high school. I'm like, at what point?
Yeah, I get it, but it's like I'm a big Wes Anderson fan, but I don't need every little. Rushmore's one of my favorite movies and comedies. Let's say it's a comedy, and I don't need the downbeat humor, the awkward silence humor. I love a lot of that, but I do miss kind of the overtop, loud characters.
Chris Farley in this
Chris Farley, who got his nose bitten off by a Saigon whore, and
his makeup gets worse and worse,
worse and worse. With the skunks.
Whenever it's way too much light in a scene, like if it's a dimly lit bar, it looks somewhat believable. Yeah. But then you can just see like the outline of where the makeup goes.
I don't want to step on your clips. I don't know what you got, but there's I was just talking about this today with Makuga. Guardians of the Galaxy had the great soundtrack, and they use Rupert Holmes' Pina Colada song there, right? Well, really, this was the first big screen use of it.
You're right.
In a comedy sense, because they're about to fight, and I love the we're gonna have some fighting music. Rolling Stones, Street Fighting Man, G7. You press G8. Damn it! Do you like pina coladas? Like, hilarious.
It's so ridiculous.
Farley, they were like, hey, Chris, you want to come in for a day or two, do some stuff, and he committed fully. The skunk scene.
He's hysterical. My favorite thing about Chris Farley is how he can go from this like super insane yelling to very vulnerable so quick. Like the whole like, okay, or like, me and Veronica Vaughn is a nice piece of ace. I know from experience. Everybody on the bus, good, great, grand.
Absolutely, that's his style. I love it.
It was so good.
Don Rickles in this. He has a little cameo. I love that too. Yeah, there's Farley. Rest in peace.
He's the world's nastiest movie theater manager.
Yeah, and it's Rickles being Rickles, and I just love and Kevin Farley, Chris's brother's in that scene too.
He really fat shames Artie Lange and then just like gives Norm MacDonald like two mean ribs.
But what is he? Oh God, what does he say that when he walks up and he looks at Norm and he's like, "Why don't you get a horse and go move into the forest and live by yourself?" It's like. And Rickles just made this up. Rickles, they were like, Don, just do your act.
Just do your act.
Just do your act.
Well, let's, so the pranks as a kid, the crossing guard grabbing butts one was hysterical to me. Because I don't know I don't think there's ever been a time period in America where people weren't aware if a crossing guard was grabbing children's butts as very apparent as he is. Like, kids are just walking by and he's like...
It's Norm MacDonald's kid character, Mitch, puts super glue on his butt.
Which instantly
sticks. Hey, this guy is grabbing 8-year-olds' butts. Hey! And I'm in the theater with my pals. I'm in the theater with my radio partner at the time. I went to high school with my friend Matty D, our friend Blair, another friend. And we're watching, and that's the first thing we see, and we just were dying. We were hooked from that moment.
Yeah, it was hysterical, because you know what you're getting into. It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's a recurring, and I don't know if this is a Norm MacDonald thing, but there's the recurring popcorn in parking meters, and popcorn in cars, and popcorn in... that was my one gripe. I thought this movie was hilarious, but I thought eventually it started getting lazier towards the second half, where they were just like,
one too many popcorn bits for you, Ben?
Maybe a different thing than popcorn. Maybe or a little less homophobic humor. Like there
was a lot. That's what I noticed more than anything.
It's crazy.
I was like, oh yeah, the '90s. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like
sorry about that.
It's It reminds me of the Ace Ventura joke that when we talked about it on the show that ages horribly when he finds out he kissed a man and he's like plunging his mouth and burning his clothes. You're like, oh my God, all right. It's not like
there's a lot of terms used in this one. None like go get you banned from anything, but just like, oh yeah, okay, that's there. That's
when like the way they got back at the Rottweiler was to sick his gay German Shepherd. Just like
the way Norm delivers it. Oh, one more thing. His dog was gay.
It's just such an afterthought. Oh, it's ridiculous. And it did remind me of the, I don't know if pizza delivery places do this anymore. The 30 minutes are free.
I think mostly no, because they were creating problems.
Yeah, I remember that being a big thing in the
was
90s.
It Domino's that did it first?
I know.
30 minutes or less?
I think it was Domino's, and I thought Pizza Hut did it too.
Maybe. I remember avoiding the Noid, but yeah.
Yeah,
it might be.
That's... And talk about the epitome of corporate greed, where it's like we're gonna put our drivers through hell, risk everybody they're driving around, take money out of their paycheck if they get it there late. Oh, what a dick move!
I'm trying to. He gets fired from that by his girlfriend. Yeah, I love that scene when he's walking up. I think that's great comedy of him walking up and people are wearing his clothes.
Yeah, that's my Canadian Flyers jersey. And let's play the first clip, which is him walking up and trying to calm his girlfriend down, who's throwing out all of his belongings.
Tony Ann, what are you doing?
I've had it. Uncle Aldo called. He told me he fired you. That's your 14th job in the past 3 months.
14th job.
I can't take it anymore.
Hey, honey, I understand you're upset. Hey, maybe you'd feel better after we have some dirty sex.
That's such a Norm MacDonald. His delivery. Norm as a stand-up was both wonderfully awkward and genius. His joke. Have you ever heard the joke about Satan convincing a guy to kill his family?
No.
Have you never heard that joke? No. Man, I don't want to step on it. It is.
We should all look it up.
It's one of my favorite stand-up bits of all time. Yeah. And so we should have some dirty sex.
Better after we have some dirty sex.
His delivery is one of a kind.
It's Norm, man.
Because it's like it's completely detached from emotion.
It has no emotion.
But it's hysterical. It still
they
works.
write it early when he's doing the prologue. His character says, "I don't really show emotions well.
I don't really show what do you call emotions or
feelings,
whatever." Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, they're just like, cool. Well, Norm can't emote as an actor, so we'll just write that into the character.
I think he has one scene where he's a little freaked out.
He has a monologue at the end too where he's trying to be sincere. You know, he brought his A game.
Yeah, his B- game. Yeah. There's then he sees the superhero. We're gonna spend the entire show in the first 10 minutes, but he sees the dude wearing a shirt and he's like, "Hey, give me my shirt back!" And the guy takes it off and just his hair. And he's like, "Oh, never mind."
I was talking about some other guy.
So it starts off so funny to me, and that his how he finds out that Sam, Artie Lange's character's dad, is his dad. We talked about in the 3 minutes and under. But I love it when he passes off this locket and you think it's going to be something sweet. And Norm's like, "Oh, God, that's you and my mom having sex. Yeah, how else were you going to believe me?"
Well, when the plot point, the big plot point is Jack Warden's character is a 100-year-old ex-boxer. And he's real tough.
He looks great for 100.
Yeah, great for and Norm MacDonald has hated him his entire life, and he reveals he's his father. Don't tell Sam. He'll feel as though he'll be lied to. So that becomes the tension of some of the plot.
But I like that you use air quotes for those just listening.
But when Artie finds out later, and he's like, "So, Mom, you cheated on Mom with his mom?" "No, she was there. Who do you think took the picture?" It's just, to be little humor like that. I just love it there.
So the dad attacks Norm and is choking him out. Chris Farley's in it talking about the Saigon Horror, and then a fight breaks out. There's a fight that starts between Artie Lange and some frat boys, and Norm goes over to help.
Yeah.
And by help, I mean they both get their asses kicked.
Yeah.
And he gets thrown out a window, and this is one of Norm's note to self jokes. Clip 2.
Note to self: learn to fight.
Such a Norm stuff. Norm style of joke.
Learn to fight.
Learn to fight. And that's the one that sets them off on their career path.
Yeah.
Right? Well, no, the Rickles one, right?
Yeah.
But I love that because they go back to get these frat boys at their house.
See, and that's what bummed me out is that prank to me was so elaborate and funny that when later on I was just like, throw dead fish and popcorn. I was like, no, but your first one was hilarious about how, because they show up and they have cop uniforms on and they're calling the police reporting a party. And then they call the
frat boys first and play that. That's a great conversation. And then
and they're like, hey, we're if there's police,
the two guys pretending to be police officers, don't believe them. And then they hang up. And then Norm MacDonald in that Norm style goes, hey, hello, real cops. Hey, I'd like to file a noise complaint.
It's so good.
It's so.
And then the real cops show up, so they punch them, thinking they're not cops because they got the call. And then there's just this scene where these frat boys are just getting beat repeatedly.
Just long drawn out nightsticks, ass batons, everything.
It's so funny. I love that sequence so much. Oh God! And then this is when what's his Jack? What's his name?
Jack Warden.
Jack Warden.
I forget what his character. What is it? Pops.
Pops. So Pops is in the hospital. And he's wanting to level with Norm MacDonald. And Norm MacDonald admits his fear a little bit in this clip number 3.
Look, it's kind of embarrassing being physically afraid of a 100-year-old man who just had a coronary, so can we hurry this up a bit?
Physically afraid of a 100-year-old man who just had a coronary, so can we hurry this up a bit?
Can we hurry this up a bit?
The script was like just use Norm punchlines.
Yeah, it's literally just Norm punchlines every 3 to 5 minutes. Oh God, oh man, I love this movie so much. And the more I'm revisiting it, the more I'm really enjoying.
It's got stuff,
the kernels. Man. It's got the kernels of glory.
Not gonna win any Golden Globes or Oscars, but
no. And then they meet Chevy Chase. Which, as you...
Dr. Farthing.
Dr. Farthing, as you mentioned in the 3 Minutes and Under, is that he has the most elaborate backstory for any doctor ever. And it's not like, oh, I need you to raise $50,000 for the procedure.
Right.
He acts as if this heart transplant is free.
Yeah.
Like, apparently we live in an alternate 90s universe where heart transplants are free. But in order to get bumped up the list, you have to
pay 50
grand to his, because he owes a bookie with his compulsive gambling.
Yeah. Well, is he a sports star? He boxed for a little bit. Oh no, then he's not going to move up the list. Yeah, no, and he's got this clearly gambling problem. Yeah, I love there's some really good Chevy Chase moments of just the where he's like, well, the unfair thing is, they shoot me, but you're going to kill me in 4 days. So why do I have to do that now? And again, I think Chase was just on set.
He is so good at being, at the same time, broad with his comedy, but deadpan, if that makes sense. It's like he walks this fine line.
Yeah.
And Christmas Vacation is a movie that I revisit every holiday season. And he does such slapstick, goofy things, but in a way, it reminds me of like the Buster Keatons of the world, like where it's so dry in its broad physicality that I don't know how. It's like one of a kind at that time.
Chevy is one of those guys, and he's got a checkered offset reputation, to say the least.
So I've heard,
and a lot of people might know him from Community. He did great work, but he that's a whole other thing. I think one of those things where sadly over time his impact won't be remembered as strong as it is. And late 70s to 75 to mid 80s, he was the top comedy guy along with some of the legends of the game during that era. And he just brought himself. Lorne Michaels said, pretty simply, he got famous first because he said his name every week. Everyone else was a sketch player, not ready for primetime player, but every week he got on and said, hi, I'm Chevy Chase and you're not. And so it became a household name, literally. And he brings that style. And the Lampoon stuff and Fletch is kind of the best example of it.
Just even one of the moments that always makes me laugh at Christmas Vacation is when the ladder flips over and he's just trying to figure out which way to move his hand. He's like, nope. And just like the ridiculous of that but in such a deadpan way. Or when he's walking and clocks his face in the attic. And
he tapped in with Lampoon. He tapped into that every person rage of, I just want to go through my life. I want to go to an amusement park with my family. I want to hang the Christmas lights. I want them to work. I want my bonus. I got the Jelly of the Month Club. Like, he tapped into that just every day, just leave me alone life. I want to enjoy it. Rage and
holy shit!
Yeah,
where's the Tylenol?
Yeah, it's just. Have you ever seen Funny Farm?
Years and years and years
Madeline
and years
Smith,
ago. I need to rewatch it.
Funny Farm, I think about 88, is one of my favorite comedies.
I think I saw
it
as a kid. My parents watched it.
Revisit it. It's really good. It's Chevy Chase move to the country, a small town with his wife to write the great American novel, and their marriage starts to fall apart, and they decide to leave the town, but then the town hates them. There's a mailman that tortures them, and it's kind of a Christmas feel to it. I think Funny Farm is one of the forgotten 80s comedy gems.
And it's a shame that he's, his curmudgeon self in older years has kind of taken away how much.
Yeah, I mean, and he was always like, I was never back there. Yeah, there we go, Funny Farm.
There we go.
From fighting with Bill Murray backstage in 76 or whatever it was to
fighting with Dan Harmon on
that. I mean, being banned from SNL. At one point, Lorne Michaels had to finally tell his friend, you can't come back as a host or anything. Like, yeah,
maybe part of it was earned.
I'm not saying I'm here going to hang out with him, but I do think he's a comedy legend.
He's a comedy legend. In fact, let's play this clip where he's the worst bedside manner of a doctor I've ever heard.
Well, if someone were taking bets on your father's bout with death, I'd bet everything I own on death. It's a good bet. The odds are he'll probably die.
Couldn't you have prepared him a little for that?
Oh, well, kind of thought I did with that whole betting analogy.
I love it.
Odds are he's going to die.
It's a good bet.
It's a good bet. And then there's hilarious sight gags like where they're looking up, they're standing on the roof, and then you realize Artie Lange's pissing off the roof, and then the dude comes up soaked in piss,
soaking wet.
And I thought they're not going to say anything, and I think Norm says something like, that's a hell of a lot of piss.
I'm a pee. Yes.
It's so ridiculous.
Yes.
But this leads
Not
us
highbrow.
This leads us to one of the lower brow moments, which is the movie theater prank, where again that kind of like recurring like homophobic humor of the 90s, where like the way to get back at him is not only to show a porno at the movie theater, but a gay porno. And
Men in Black who like to have sex with each other is the name of the movie they show.
I mean, at least you know what you're getting when you go into that movie. Which the funniest thing to me about that scene is how long the audience sits through it before they decide to run out and trample the manager.
Yeah.
Like once the title came up, you'd think people with children in the audience would be like,
going on?
This isn't what we came here to see.
And Rickles gets his comeuppance and everything, but it's just because, there's the dialogue's like, hey, there's that guy. I want to have sex with him. Like, it's just it's not the high point of the movie and choice of comedy, but it fits in perfectly. And they get the revenge on Rickles, and they think they're so good at this, and people pay them money, and they're like, let's open up a business. Dirty work.
So then they're like, oh, hey, this girl that I'm into, her boss is a jerk. Let's get him on his live television commercial. And so David Koechner has this cameo where he's selling cars. And let's play the Dead Hookers clip. This is the one thing I remembered from it until last night.
Oh my goodness! What are you doing? I've never seen so many dead hookers in all my life.
Lord knows I have.
That's my favorite. Lord knows I have. I want a whole spin-off. I want a whole spin-off movie of that guy's backstory, but make it like a Breaking Bad dark ass like
true crime podcast waiting to happen. And so for this one in '98, if Ryan, you said '98 for the movie, right?
June 21st, 1998.
Oh yeah, gosh,
specificity is what we're all about.
A month and a half before I moved to LA.
Yeah.
Wow. Memories. Koechner was on the 95-96 season of SNL. Nancy Walls and him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Nancy Walls and him did not get invited back for the next season, and I loved Koechner. Like he and Mark McKinney had these characters, the British fop characters. If you ever saw that one, they're just McKinney, of course, from Kids in the Hall, which I love Kids in the Hall, and they're just dressed up in these Victorian era powder, and they loved Norm MacDonald.
Yeah.
And we watched Norm MacDonald, a bare ass naked, and so they always did things with Norm on Weekend Update.
Yeah.
And Keckner gets cut from the show, and one season and out. And this was the first I'd seen him when he came back. So I'm in the theater like, David Keckner! He's back! David Keckner! This is before, Ron Burgundy and Anchorman, all that stuff. So
now he's popping up in everything.
Yeah. Well, now, and he's great. And I rode on a airport parking lot bus tram to LAX with him at 4:40 in the morning one day. And he was so funny and nice to everyone in that bus. And
That's
I didn't
awesome.
talk to him much, but I just wanted to be like, loved your work and dirty work.
And he'd be like, I was in that?
I was a dirty work. Dead hooker jokes.
I used to go to Meltdown Comics when they had that comedy show in the back before it became huge, when it was just like Kumail Nanjiani was there, and David Keckner did like a band there, and he had a song called I Don't Give a Shit.
Yeah.
And I briefly met him for a second after, and he was a super nice guy. But it was like, it's so strange how like LA can be, where you're like, I'm gonna go to this comedy show in the back of and then you're like,
or you're 4:30 in the morning at LAX, you're flying to Chicago, you get on the bus and you're like, oh, David Keckner's here. Love that. I love that moment though.
It's so funny.
And my girlfriend saw it, like, she was laughing a lot about the dead hookers in the cars.
I want to know now. See, I always like to pitch spin-offs of things. Like, is there a spin-off police investigation into David Keckner?
It's a spin-off true crime podcast. In
like
the world
David Keckner, like, did this rock the town, or did everybody just go, they're hookers. They have no souls. Is that what the town thought? Like, what happened?
Anton Phillips, who's a car dealer. Like, it makes sense. It makes sense. Makes sense.
I love when things that, like, if it happened in real life, would like shock a small town. In these kind of movies, just we move on. We move on. I've never seen so many dead hookers in all my life. We already played the chainsaw clip. So that was because this guy was complaining about these parties. Oh, there's also Rebecca Romaine.
Romaine is the bearded lady at a circus, and a small performer goes in and says, hey, she's treating all of us bad.
And so they shave her without her waking up.
I don't know if it's implied that Artie Lange's character has sex with her. I don't know what's going on.
I don't think was it. I missed that.
Because she comes on to Norm, and Norm's like, and Artie Lange's like, oh, I'm game. And I don't know.
So maybe they hooked up, and then he shaved her after.
Maybe, but she loses her beard, so they get revenge on her.
Either way, I was like, that wasn't your best joke in this movie.
No, but it was a cameo at the time. Like, Rebecca Romaine Stamos, no longer Stamos is the movie.
I just saw her in a movie on Friday. My friend directed called Satanic Panic.
Oh, Clark Wolf was in that, I believe, too. Yeah,
it's super fun. Chelsea Stardust directed it.
Awesome, man.
Super
Real
fun.
Quick, y'all. We have some people in the chat. Jonathan Peckwood just wanted to ask.
Please.
We're talking so much about SNL. Do you think the 90 era SNL is the best one for every generation?
Mid-90s SNL? No. The original group is great, obviously. My favorite era will always be the late 80s or into 90-91 era.
And who's
led by Dana Carvey, Mike Myers, Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, Nora Dunn. I think the mid 2000s. I think once they get rolling, early 2000 range. I think that's a classic era too.
I think for me, whenever Dana Carvey was on it, Dana Carvey and Sandler and Phil Hartman and Farley. I don't know how much. I can't remember how much overlap Phil Hartman had with like Chris Farley.
He went to about 93.
Okay,
93.
Because I grew. That's kind of when I was watching it, and then I drifted off, and then when Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig and everybody was on, and then. For me, and the original group I think is great, but I think some of the sketches are a little more dated. But I can still totally understand how they're comedic geniuses. The A talent that they had. I don't know if there's ever been that big of a talent.
The thing is, sometimes you just have to get there first, right? But I think with the first cast, the first era, the first 5 years, which is a fascinating era of the show, they were not only just setting the imprint, the parameters of what the show would be. Like there was a live energy. It was New York in the 70s. It was crazy. It was Summer Sam. It was we're taking shots at the people in charge. And Saturday Night Live became the institution that it used to make fun of, and that's not a bad thing. It's just what's going to happen when You're on for 45 years now almost. So, yeah.
Is it you live long enough to see yourself become the villain?
So, yeah, die a hero, live long enough to be a villain.
I do think that I try to keep up on it and watch it still, and now I feel like it's more heavily contingent on the host than ever before, where it's like whoever the host is depends on if it's going to be hilarious or not. Because
that makes sense, yeah.
And maybe it was always like that and I just never noticed it, but like there's sometimes, or everything is so much on current events that sometimes I'm like, it's not even funny anymore. I'm just like, this is just our reality.
Yeah.
And I'm like, our reality sucks.
I'll be honest, I haven't, the last couple of years, I haven't watched it as closely as I have before, which is sad. Like, I literally could talk SNL history like I could baseball history. I mean, I love the show. But yeah, I think that's interesting you said that, because I think back in the day, especially in the 80s, late 80s, when I was really discovering it, I didn't tune in to see the hosts be funny. I tuned in to be like, could the hosts keep up with the cast? Yeah. And that was part of the appeal, yeah.
I do think there's some standouts still on the show right now. It's I just think that it's...
I did Groundlings. I trained Groundlings with Mikey Day, and I love Mikey Day, and Mikey Day is an amazing talent, and there's a lot of people on there that are great.
Yeah, and Kate McKinnon always makes me laugh, too.
I think Kent Soblett's still one of the head writers, and Kent's a very talented performer and writer, too.
Yeah, it's weird. You can tell that they and it makes sense that they put all their funniest sketches in the front, and then once you get towards like the 1 o'clock hour, you're like,
you throw a Norm MacDonald sketch in
like
about dead hookers.
It's like the last 2 or 3. I'm always like, I can go to bed.
You've got this clip. You got this clip at number 7. This is one of my all-time favorite lines and beats in comedy, and I'm so glad you gravitated to it as well.
It's so good. So he's walking with his girl, this girl he's courting. And he finds out that the house he's going to try and get condemned is where her grandmother lives. So he bails from the conversation in the only way he knows how, which is making up something.
So, would you like to come in for some coffee?
Oh, no, I have to go lift weights. What?
I gotta tell you,
I lift weights. What?
And he literally, if you're watching the video, he literally turns. Like, he literally
the
goes,
comedic timing.
What? Like, someone's there and he's looking at them. I actually used that in my life. Like, over the last 21 years, I've actually been like, I gotta go lift weights. What? And like, people are like, no one gets it. No one gets it. It's just me.
Well, now, from here on out,
for now, people.
If I ever hear you make it again, I'm gonna go, dirty work.
Dirty work.
What? I feel like my face is just beat red from laughing at all the clips. So they wreck the hell out of the place. Yep. They put cherry bombs down the toilet. There's cockroaches in the bed, fish in the walls, spray paint. This place sucks on the building.
Yeah.
They should have known something was up when there's a sweet old lady who's the grandmother of the girl he likes. But, they were blinded by trying to...
Plot does not get in the way of the moments here.
And they also maybe should have signed a contract with Shooter McGavin.
Definitely.
About the $50,000.
Never trust Shooter McGavin.
No. He eats pieces of shit like you for breakfast. Do you eat pieces of shit for breakfast? No.
Christopher McDonald, right? McDonald? Well, yeah.
He's so good.
He's amazing.
It's like... I've never seen him play anything other than super huge douchebag.
He plays that guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure his career is more extensive. But
I'm sure.
Between this and Happy Gilmore, he was just on fire.
And I'm willing to bet, I have no knowledge of him personally, but I'm willing to bet he's a really nice guy. Because usually people that are huge dicks as their characters are super nice.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
He's got that.
Sometimes
I've
vice versa.
Wondered about the Chihuahua he's got.
Yeah, if that was his.
It
looked super scared in one of the scenes. Yeah, there was a close up where it's just like I was worried it was going to explode on camera. It was shaking so much.
It's hard. I have 2 Chihuahuas with my girlfriend now, and we were loving it last night. But like she was like enthralled by it. But I was looking at it. It was like a couple times it like almost nods off. I'm like, is this just comfortable or just long day shooting? Yeah. Those Chihuahuas.
They don't have. I don't think they have as many hour limits with Chihuahuas as they do children.
Yeah.
Because I worked, we auditioned with my daughter once, and it would have been like a 2-hour day because my friend and his daughter booked it, and he was like, "Yeah, we're there for 2 hours.
Yeah, there we go.
That's all they can do because she's 3.
Yeah,
they're not allowed to keep her any longer." So you get a little insight into being a child actor. Hollywood. So Mr. Cole screws him over. They pay off the homeless guys to distract the guards.
Yes.
Which you mentioned what does he say? The price of my soul or whatever?
Yeah, it's not worth the price of my soul. All right, how about $2? Okay.
And then they jump cut to them running around. There's Jim. What was the guy's name?
Jim Downey.
Jim Downey, who does that awesome speech where he's like, "I lost everything, and my wife couldn't look at me, and then here you go, here's your money." It's so ridiculous.
Here's your $2.
Let's see. There's a falling out.
There's always a falling out
for about 3 seconds in this movie.
Sad music cue,
which I actually really appreciated because I always get annoyed when comedies do the falling out and then linger in it for like 20 minutes. And one of the biggest examples of that was the 5-year engagement. With Emily Blunt and Jason Segel.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love this movie. And then they break up for like 30 minutes of the movie. And I'm like, why am I watching a 2-hour and 15-minute comedy?
Yeah.
So,
get in, get out.
Brevity, everybody. Yeah. When he's sleeping in his car because he's been kicked out of Artie Lange's house. He's sleeping in his car. A dude smashes the window, crawls in, and is tearing out his tape recorder. And Norm MacDonald just wakes up and is like, "Hey, I'm trying to sleep." It's so ridiculous.
Like got a little nightcap on.
Yeah. It's hysterical to me. And what a heavy sleeper. I'd be worried about him in an earthquake or anything. Then Mitch realizes that he has Cole on tape. And he conveniently left the tape recorder on for
it's just hours.
Hours.
Yeah,
it's the longest tape ever.
Yeah.
So then then there's that joke with the when they're Artie and him are going back and forth, and he's like, "Look, man, he's my dad," and he's like, "Yeah, isn't it crazy? I used to like your sister, and I think you actually even banged. Oh my God, it means I banged your sister, my sister. I guess it would be.
Let's never talk about this again." Yeah.
It's just like
you have to have
every
that.
single scene has just like builds up to one punchline and then moves on, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So then they go back and he tries to give the what you called an impassioned speech, I believe.
He tries.
He tries
to give a rallying speech.
He gives a rallying speech, and she finds out they're brothers. And can we play clip number 8?
You two are brothers?
Yeah, it's a long story.
My dad boned his mom.
Okay, it's a short story.
It's so good. Oh shit! I know all we've done is play a clip. I crack up and say how good it is.
But I just love that stuff, man. I don't know what it is about Norm. I've always loved him as a stand-up. Weekend Update, just the way he plays with awkward beats.
Yeah, he's the master of pause, super awkward delivery. Yeah. All right, it's a short story.
Yeah.
Gary Coleman has a second cameo where I forgot to mention earlier they try and do this test group on these brownies that for some reason they're developing normal dessert brownies, not medicinal brownies, that can cause rashes, hallucinations, and sweats.
Psychotic visions. Yeah, and it always involves Gary Coleman.
Apparently, because it's not just Norm. Norm sees him and Adam Sandler as the devil.
Yep.
But then all the guards who try it too. So something within the chemical makeup of these brownies
goes to Gary Coleman.
Was designed to make people maybe watch more Gary Coleman film and TVographies.
Different strokes. And Ken Norton in the boxing match. I just love that Ken Norton just punches Gary Coleman and knocks him out.
It's so ridiculous. So long story short, do we have a few more minutes, Ryan, since it's 4 seconds left, or no?
Yeah, we gotta hurry up.
Okay, we'll hurry up. That's fine. It's fine.
We gotta hurry up.
We gotta hurry up. So long story short, they ruin Shooter McGavin, Mr. Cole's opera night.
Yeah.
They play it over the loudspeaker. They let skunks in to the opera house. Let's play clip number 9. This is when he's saying why his lady wants to get back with him.
I can't believe I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah, why are you here? Oh, wait, I remember. Intense physical attraction to me.
Which I guess is believable.
Sure. Long story short, they all live happily ever after, and actually even Norm MacDonald sums it up because Jimmy, even Chris Farley's character, gets back with the Saigon Whore. I'm very worried for their relationship
because it's not going to end well.
She bites his nose off again immediately.
Yeah.
Let's play clip number 10 for the outro from Norm.
And I got the girl. Oh, and Dr. Farthing? Well, he got over his gambling problem, but the bookies beat him to death anyway. So he's dead. That's it. Bye.
That to me sums up the whole movie. That's it. Bye. Oh, it's fantastic.
That's all we give you.
Thank you, Ken, for bringing this classic back into my brain. because I didn't give it the love it deserved back in the 90s.
There you go. I wouldn't know. I don't know if I'd call it a classic, but let's believe it in our hearts.
If we believe it,
here,
it might come true.
Yeah.
Ken, since we are out of time, where can they find you? Where can they follow you and all that good stuff?
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Of course, thanks for being here.
Ryan in the booth. Appreciate that. You can follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to kennapzok.com for information where to find my book, Why We Love Star Wars, all my shows, live events coming up, including an appearance locally here in LA, Millennium Pro Wrestling on September 6th, and comedy doing stand-up in Washington, D.C. with Mark Ellis in November. So go to my website for details.
Wow. All right. Well, that's a tough act to follow, but you can find me at the Ben Begley on Twitter and Instagram, and at Guilty Movie Guys is our Twitter handle, so you can send suggestions to us. Make sure to leave us a review on iTunes and a comment on YouTube. It helps out, and we'd like to hear from you. Jesse should be back next week, and keep those suggestions coming. Until next time, hey, what is your guilty movie pleasure? That was my Norm MacDonald.
Bye.
Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.